Hello learners, welcome to NIOS Studio. This is live e-Vidya program for Science and Technology secondary course of NIOS. I am Neelam Gupta, course coordinator of Environmental Science. Welcome you all in this program. Learners, in our previous program, we have discussed muscular system that enables movement and support posture. We have also discussed digestive system that means break down food and absorb nutrients, circulatory system, transport oxygen, nutrients and hormones. We discussed respiratory system that supply oxygen and removes carbon dioxide, and also discuss excretory system means removal of waste and maintains fluid balance. So let us start with an example that connects directly to the theme of today's discussion. So we regularly observe our body, but few of us are able to appreciate what a well harmonized machine it is. When we eat food, digestive juices are secreted, but these are secreted only when there is some food in our food canal, and so long as the food has to be digested. Together they ensure that digestive juices are secreted only when food is present. So how do organs perform work together accurately? So answer may be nervous system and endocrine system are the two main control systems in our body that ensure organs work in harmony. So together they ensure that digestive juices are secreted only when food is present. And how does the right physiological activities occur at the exact moment? So our muscle move only when stimulated, and our body temperature remain constant even when outside temperature fluctuates. So do you know which organ is responsible for our thoughts, feelings, emotions and behavior? Yes, that is brain. Brain is the central organ responsible for our thoughts, feelings, emotions and behavior. So different regions within the brain specialize in processing these complex functions. So when we are talking about brain, this is a part of nervous system. So today we will discuss lesson number 23, control and coordination from module 5, the living part. This is life processes 2. Control and coordination in living organisms involve the integration of various body functions to respond effectively to internal and external stimuli. This is achieved through specialized systems like the nervous system and endocrine system in animals and hormonal and directional responses in plants. So objective, or we can say what we are discussing today in this program, are the role of nervous system and hormonal system in control and coordination of various activities of the body, major component of the nervous system, and enlist their functions, emphasizing their role in informed decision making, and role of nerve cell or neuron in the transmission of nerve impulse as well as location and explanation function of a spinal cord in evoking a reflex action. And we would like to try to cover role of some endocrine glands in regulating our behavior and growth, and role of and relevance of reflex, voluntary and involuntary actions as well as hormones in efficient functioning of the human body. So have you ever wondered how the various organs perform their respective functions in harmony and at appropriate time? So nervous system and endocrine system ensures that the body works in a controlled and coordinated manner. So we define nervous system. Nervous system includes the brain, spinal cord, sense organs and nerves, while endocrine system operates through certain chemicals which they are called as hormones, which are produced by specialized gland and are secreted directly into the blood. So nervous system works with the endocrine system to communicate, integrate and coordinate the functions of various organs and organ system in our body. So nervous system acts like a high speed communication networking using electrical impulses. It detects changes or stimuli processes information and sends signals to muscles and glands for immediate responses. When we talk about endocrine system, it uses hormones released into the bloodstream to regulate slower long-term processes like growth, metabolism and reproduction. So, some example from our daily life will help us to appreciate the complexity of processes coordinated by the nervous and endocrine system to help us execute simple tasks and difficult tasks. So, do you know why do we feel hungry? Yes, you are right. So, look at the figure. There are food, eye, brain, digestive system and human. So, we want food when our body needs energy. So, the eyes will see the food, brain register this information and a series of coordinated activities are initiated. Appropriate activities in the nervous system instruct the relevant muscles in the hand and the finger to pick up the food and put it into the mouth. So, when sufficient food have been eaten, signals from the hunger center in the brain indicates a sense of fullness and the individual stops eating. The food reaches the alimentary canal and several digestive juices, for example, gastric juice, bile juice, pancreatic juice, under the influence of specific endocrine glands are secreted that helps in digestion. So, after a series of digestive processes, food is absorbed into the bloodstream to fulfill the energy requirement. Several other processes involved in digestion are not mentioned here because we have already discussed digestive system in our previous program. So, many of these processes can be directly observed, but they play a vital role in the digestion of food and providing energy for our day-to-day activities. As you would have realized, eating is not as simple as it seems to be. The example illustrates that nervous system and endocrine system work together as a team to control and coordinate all our activities such as our physical action, our thinking process and our emotional behavior. And it is important that sometimes we may not even be aware of the role that the nervous system and endocrine system play in our health and well-being. For example, we do not have to remember to breathe or to digest food. So, there are some reflex action also. So, reflex action is a part of the nervous system. So, they are usually executed in response to an urgent or dangerous conditions. For example, if you put your hand by mistake in a hot pan or press or hot object, so immediately removal of hand if it comes in contact with the hot object. So, this is a reflex action. So, do you know that the nervous system and endocrine system have a vital role to play in smooth functioning of our lives on an everyday basis? So, let us discuss first structure and functioning of these systems in some more detail. So, nervous system, functioning of the nervous system depends on detecting a stimulus in the internal or external environment and responding to it. So, a stimulus what is an agent or an environmental change which can initiate the response in the body. And stimuli can be several types. It could be physical, chemical, radiant and heat or cold or electrical. So, let us find out how neurons in individual cells of the nervous system, how neurons communicate with one another and other tissues to receive and transmit information throughout the body. So, next slide we will see generalized structure of a neuron. So, nerve cell consists of three parts, that is dendrites, cell body and axon. So, look at the figure neuron. It has three structure. First we will talk about dendrites. They are branched cytoplasmic projections from the cell body. Dendritic tip of the nerve cell receives impulse and sets of chemical reaction that creates an electrical impulse, which is further transmitted to the cell body. Cell body contains a well defined nucleus surrounded by cytoplasm, and this cell organelles are like any other cell body has. The nerve cell also has this. The cell body further transmit the impulse to the axon. So, axon are the one branch arising out of the cell body is very long in comparison to others. This branch is called as axon or nerve fiber. In most neurons, it is covered by an insulating fatty sheet that is known as neurolemma. This fatty sheet is missing at interval, which are called node of Ranvier. The absence of neurolemma helps node of Ranvier to generate electrical activity, and in transmission of nerve impulse, and end portion of the axon have swollen end like bulbs, which stores chemicals called neurotransmitters. Axon bulbs are closely placed near the dendrites of another neuron. So, axon terminals, which are known as the synaptic terminals or botons, are the small bulb-like structure found at the end of the axon. They are responsible for transmitting information from one neuron to another by releasing chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. So, junction of the two neurons is known as synapse, and the space at the synapse separating the two neurons called synaptic clefts, as you see in the figure. There are many synapses between the millions of the nerve cells present in our body. So, through the synapse, the impulse passes from one neuron to the next neuron. When an impulse reaches the end of first neuron, a neurotransmitter is released, the synaptic cleft of the synapse. So, neurotransmitters are chemical messengers that transmit signals from one nerve cell to another, enabling the nervous system to regulate bodily functions, thoughts and emotions. They carry messages across a tiny gap called synapse, influencing everything from automatic processes like breathing to complex functions like mood, learning and movement. And neurotransmitters have three primary roles: excitatory, stimulating the next cell; inhibitory, blocking signals; and modulatory, influencing or regulating groups of neurons. So, these chemicals cross the gap or synapse and start a similar electrical impulse in the next neuron. Finally, the impulse is delivered from neurons to other cells. So, we can take example of muscle cells or gland to elicit the desired action. So, there are three types of neurons, that is sensory neuron, motor neurons and associating neurons. Sensory neurons convey the impulse from receptor or sense organ to the main nervous system, that is brain or spinal cord. Motor neurons carry the impulse from the main nervous system to an effector or muscle or gland, and association or connecting neurons are located in the brain and spinal cord and interconnect the sensory and motor neurons. So, nerve is a part of the nervous system. So, nerves are thread-like structure which emerge from the brain and spinal cord and branch out the almost all part of the body. So, a nerve is a form of bundle of nerve fibers enclosed in a tubular sheet. So, you can see figure. So, it may be compared to an underground electric cable containing numerous conducting wires, each insulated from the other. The medullary sheet of the axon acts like the insulation, preventing mixing of impulses between the adjacent axons. There are three types of nerve, as we know: sensory nerve, motor nerve and mixed nerve. So, now we will discuss little bit about all the three types of nerve. First, sensory nerve, that contains sensory fibers. These nerves bring impulse from the receptors to the brain or spinal cord. Examples: optic nerves arising from the eye and end of the brain. So, motor nerve, which contains motor fibers, these nerves carry impulse from the brain or spinal cord to the effector organ like muscles or gland. We can take example: nerve arising from the brain and carrying impulse to the muscles of the nerve, say eye. Third type of nerves are mixed nerves. They are those that contain both sensory and motor fiber and perform a mixed function, that is spinal nerve. So, there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves. So, do you know spinal nerves are the nerves that emerge from the spinal cord, and cranial nerves are the nerves that emerge from the brain. So, 30 pairs of the nerves in the human body that connects the spinal cord to the rest of the body. These nerves are grouped as 5 regions: 8 cervical nerve, 12 thoracic nerve, 5 lumbar nerves, sacral 5, and 1 coccygeal nerve. Each nerve carry both sensory and motor fibers, forming a two-way communication highway between the brain and the body for sensation, movement, and other functions. So, there are three or four functions for nervous system. Nervous system inform us about the outside world through the same sense organ. Memory, think and reason out. Control voluntary activities like running and speaking. Regulates involuntary activities like breathing, heartbeat, and control and coordinate all the functions. So, we will take a short break. After break, we will continue this discussion.
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने। जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने। धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो। धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो। कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो। कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो। मित्रों हम उठे और जागे, मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने। राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालय का है द्वार खुला,
before taking a break, we have talked about what is nervous system, endocrine system, and what is nerve. And we have discussed the structure of the nerve, and we are using some basic terms in our nerve when we are dealing with the nervous system. These terms may be stimulus, response, impulse, receptor, effector, sensory or afferent nerve, motor or afferent nerve. So, stimulus is agent or sudden change of external or internal environment. Response is the activity of the organism against the stimulus. Impulse, electric disturbance which travels with the nerve cell, and receptors are neurons which receive stimulus, and effectors, muscles or glands which respond by contraction or secretion for any stimuli, and sensory nerve brings impulse from the receptor to central nervous system, and motor or afferent nerve carries impulse from central nervous system to muscle or gland. So, now we are moving the next section, that is sense organs. We, as seen in the figure, there are some sense organs: eye, nose, tongue, ear and skin. There are 5 sense organs. So, 5 sense organs are eyes, ear, nose, tongue and skin, which allow people to perceive and interact with their environment through sight, hearing, smell, taste and touch. So, these organs detect specific stimuli like light, sound, chemical and pressure, converting them into signals that the brain processes for interpretations. So, what is the role of eye? Eye is responsible for the nerve of sense of sight. They detect light and convert it into electrical signals sent to the brain. And what are the role of ear? Ear enable hearing and balance. They detect sound waves and vibrations, sending signals to the brain. So, next is nose. Nose sense smell, detect chemicals in the air, providing a sense of smell. It works with the tongue. If the nose is blocked by mucus, food can taste bland. Tongue responsible for taste. It contains taste buds that detects chemicals in food, which is the brain them interpret like sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitter. And skin is the largest organ that provides a sense of touch, pressure, pain and temperature. So, receptor organs like nose, eye or ear receives the stimulus. These stimulus then reaches the spinal cord and the brain through sensory nerve, which is integrated. The message is then sent by the motor nerves to the required organ for suitable action. In this way, a response is generated. So, now we are moving to major division of the nervous system. Before going any further, it may be useful to know the major division of the nervous system as summarized in the chart of the next slide, as it shows. So, nervous system has 2 main divisions: central nervous system, that includes brain and spinal cord, and peripheral nervous system, which includes the nerves arising from the brain and spinal cord. So, you can see central nervous system includes brain and spinal cord, and peripheral nervous system includes somatic system and asomatic nervous system. Brain contains cerebrum, cerebellum and medulla oblongata, and somatic nervous system contains cranial nerves and spinal nerves. They are 12 and 3 pairs, 31 pairs, and somatic nervous system include sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So, we can before we start details of this nervous system, we take one example how system is work. Suppose you are passing by a garbage disposal area and you immediately immediately cover your nose. There are some jumble exercise. It's not a sequencing. So at the end of the axon, electrical impulse releases chemicals. Stimulus received on the dendrite cells of a neuron set of chemical reaction that creates an electrical impulse. Electrical impulse transmitted through cell body and axon. Chemical cross the synapse and reach the next neuron. Similarly, the electrical impulse crosses several neurons. Finally, impulse is delivered from neuron to the gland that helps in recognition of the foul smell and muscle cells that help in covering the nose. These are jumbled. So when we are passing through by a garbage disposal area, so how can we immediately cover our nose? So we can arrange by making that happen in the nervous system from detection of foul smell to covering our nose. So sequence may be: first, stimulus received on the dendrite cells of a neuron sets of chemical reaction that creates an electrical impulse. Then electrical impulse transmitted through cell body and axon. Then at the end of the axon, electrical impulse releases chemicals. Then chemicals cross the synapse and reach the next neuron. Similarly, electrical impulse crosses several neurons, and finally the impulse is delivered from neuron to the gland that help in recognition of the foul smell and muscle cells that help in covering the nose. So sequence should be second, third, first, fourth and fifth. That's the reason this work. So stimulus, look at the sequence: first, second, third, first, fourth and fifth. I have already discussed. So now we move to the central nervous system. And central nervous system, or CNS, is regarded as the information processor in the body. It consists of the brain lying under the skull and the spinal cord contained within the vertebral column. So first we will talk about the brain. So brain is a very delicate organ. It is well protected within the body structure or cranium, or we can say brain box. As you see in the figure, it is further protected by three meninges, that is membranous covering, which continue backward over the spinal cord. Now we will talk about three meninges. Three meninges are durameter, arachnoid and pyometer. Durameter, the outermost tough fibrous membrane. Arachnoid is the thin delicate middle layer giving a web-like cushion, and the pyometer, the innermost highly vascular membrane richly supplied with blood. So the space between the covering membrane is filled with watery fluid, which is known as cerebrospinal fluid, which acts like the cushion to protect the brain from shocks. So now I will discuss a serious health ailment which is related to the meningitis. Meningitis, so do you know the disease which is called meningitis, which is a serious health problem caused by the inflammation of meninges, brain covering. So meningitis is commonly caused by microorganisms like bacteria, fungi, virus and amoeba that infect the meninges and the cerebrospinal fluid surrounding the brain and spinal cord, and it is a contagious disease and can spread through coughing, sneezing, kissing, sharing eating utensils, toothbrush and many other things. Good hygiene is helpful in preventing the disease, and effective vaccine are also available to protect against meningitis. A person with meningitis suffering with high fever, lethargy, it may be irritability, headache, photophobia, stiff neck, rashes and seizures. Patient or caregivers should seek prompt medical assistance for correct diagnosis and effective treatments. So now we will discuss part of the brain, or we can say this detailed brain structure. So, brain consists of three main important parts, that is cerebrum, cerebellum and medulla. So, cerebrum is the largest part of the brain, vertically divided into two halves, right and left cerebral hemisphere. Their outer surface is highly convoluted with ridges and grooves, as you see in the figure. It looks like a walnut. When we crack the walnut, the structure will be like brain. The outer portion of the cortex of the cerebrum contains cell bodies of the neurons, which is the basic unit of the nervous tissues. Being greyish in color, it is called grey matter. The inner portion of the cerebrum consists of white matter, which mainly contains the axon or nerve fiber of the neurons. The highly developed part, cortex of grey matter, enables us to think, reason out, invent, plan and memorize. So, overall we can say cerebrum is the seat of intelligence, consciousness and willpower. It controls all voluntary actions. So, look at the figure. There are four parts: frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe and temporal lobe. So, frontal lobe controls decision making, problem solving and voluntary movement. Parietal lobe processes sensory information like touch, temperature and pain. Temporal lobe involved in hearing, memory and speech, and occipital lobe responsible for visual processing. There are several other parts also, that is known as corpus callosum and cerebral cortex. Corpus callosum connects the two hemispheres and allow communication between them, and cerebral cortex is the outer layer of the cerebrum involved in complex brain function. So, cerebrum helps us to make well thought and informed decision. For example, decision related to the career choice you make. This figure shows some major functions associated with the different areas of the brain. It includes movement, sensation, vision, body balance, hearing, taste, smell, speech and memory. So, now we will move the second part of the brain, is a cerebellum. Is a much smaller area of the brain located below the cerebrum. There is no convolution but has numerous furrows. This has also an outer cortex made up of grey matter and an inner white matter. The main function of the cerebrum is to maintain the balance of the body and coordinate muscular activity. Cerebrum and cerebellum work together in close coordination. For example, if you stand up and walk, the impulse for this activity arises in the cerebrum. The act of walking involves coordinated working of many muscles, and proper coordination and timing of contraction and relaxation of the muscle is the responsibility of the cerebellum. So, let me share. Do you know an alcoholic person, how does he walk? When drunk, generally walks clumsy. This is because under the effect of alcohol, the cerebellum is unable to coordinate muscular movement properly. So, third part is a medulla oblongata, is the lowest portion of the brain located at the base of the skull. It is roughly triangular and is continued behind as a spinal cord. Its function is to control the activities of our visceral organs like alimentary canal, movement, breathing, beating of heart and many other involuntary actions. Injury of the medulla generally result in death, as the involuntary and vital organ functions like breathing and heartbeat may be stopped. As mentioned, we have already said a spinal cord is an integral part of the central nervous system. So, we are not now talking about spinal cord. Spinal cord extends from the medulla oblongata and continues downward almost throughout the length of the backbone and lies within the neural canal of the vertebral column or the backbone. Look at the figure. This figure shows the internal structure of the spinal cord. In the spinal cord, arrangement of the gray and white matter is reversed from that in the brain. The gray matter containing the cell bodies of motor neurons lie on the inner side, while the white matter on the outer side. White matter contains axons running longitudinally to and fro the brain and ever crossing from one side to the other. There is a small central canal in the center which runs through the entire length and continues with the cavities of the brain. It is filled with cerebrospinal fluid which acts as a shock-proof cushion or forms a medium for the exchange of food material, waste products and respiratory gases with neurons. So, externally a spinal cord is covered by the same membrane that is durameter, arachnoid and pyometer in continuation with those of the brain. So, now we move to the function of spinal cord. Spinal cord is also concerned with the three functions, that is, it controls the reflexes below the neck, it conducts sensory impulse from the skin and muscles to the brain, and it conducts motor responses from the brain to muscles of the trunk and limbs. So, suppose if we face an urgent and dangerous situation, then there are sudden movement we have also known as reflex action or reflex. So, reflex action requires immediate response and does not provide us with the time to think and reach a decision. These responses are achieved through the reflex action. The term reflex is usually used to convey sudden and immediate action in response to something. So, when there is a sudden dust storm, what do? Do your eyes or you immediately close your eyes to prevent the dust particles from entering your eyes. And what is your reaction when you touch a hot pan while making food? You immediately remove your hand to avoid the hot pan. How does it possible? So, in both cases there is an instant and automatic reaction. There are certain actions in our body that are spontaneous and do not need any processing by the brain. Such responses are called reflex actions. Reflex actions are involuntary action that occurs without conscious thought processes. We take another examples. When some particles fell into our eye, there is immediately flushing of tears to wash them out. And when you shiver, when it is cold, muscular contraction, and sweat when it is too hot, that is glandular secretion. And when your hand accidentally touches a hot pan or iron, you withdraw it instantly, that is seen in the figure. So, a reflex action may be defined as a spontaneous, autonomic and mechanical response to a stimulus controlled by the spinal cord and without the involvement of the brain. So, do you know all involuntary actions or reflexes are initiated by some kind of sensory stimulations resulting in either a muscular action or a glandular secretion. So, there are two types of reflexes: natural, innate or inborn reflexes, and conditioned or acquired reflexes. So, close your eyes and try to follow the rhythm of your body. This is an activity we can take. What do you feel? You feel that you are breathing gently, and you also feel your heart and pulse beating. So, all such activities with which no previous experience or learning is required are termed as natural reflexes, and these reflexes are inborn, or that is inherited at the time of birth. Other examples are swallowing, coughing and blinking of eyelids. When we talk about conditional reflex or acquired reflex, so what happens? When you are able to smell your favorite food, even without actually eating it, you are right, your mouth starts watering or salivation in anticipation. So, this phenomena is based on your past experiences, by which you are able to associate a particular aroma with the specific food that you like. So, aroma of the food item would not have initiated salivation if you had never eaten the food before. So, such type of actions which developing during the lifetime due to experience or learning are termed as conditioned reflex. So, an example of conditioned reflex का हम बात की, how do you work? Salivation occurs at the smell of the food as the brain is able to remember the taste of the food and works it in an unconscious way. So, such reflexes are not inborn and hence conditioned reflexes are acquired. So, in order to preserve the conditioned reflex, it is necessary to reinforce it periodically. For example, once reflex is formed, the mere smell of the food initiates salivation. However, it repeatedly the smell of the favorite food item is not followed by the food itself, you will stop reacting to the smell with salivation after a certain time. So, a reflex arc may be represented as stimulus, move to receptor in the sense organ, then afferent on sensory nerve fiber, then central nervous system to motor nervous system fiber, and muscle to or gland to secrete the enzyme. Now, we are talking about the peripheral nervous system. It connects the nervous system, central nervous system with the sense organs, muscles and glands of the body and includes the sensory and motor nerves too. The peripheral nervous system consists of two subdivisions, that is somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. First, we will talk about somatic nervous system that conveys information from brain and spinal cord to skeletal muscles and regulates voluntary action, and autonomic nervous system which controls the involuntary action of many internal organs, smooth muscles, heart muscles and glands. So, this is somatic nervous system. It consists of two sets of the nerves, that is cranial nerves and the spinal nerves. 12 pairs of the cranial nerves emerge from the brain, for example, optic nerve for eye, auditory nerve for ears. 31 pairs of the spinal nerve emerges from the spinal cord. We have already talked about 30 pairs of the spinal nerve. So, now we move to the autonomic nervous system, and this system consists of a pair of chain of nerves and ganglia on either side of the backbone. This system controls the involuntary action of the internal organs. Sympathetic nervous system becomes more active during time of stress. It prepares the body for action, its action during the stress response. So, as you see in the figure, there are two parts of the autonomic nervous system, that is sympathetic and parasympathetic. It comprises the fight or flight response that is manifested largely under the influence of the hormone adrenaline. Parasympathetic nervous system executes action that do not require immediate response, for example, producing of saliva and tears, digestion. The function of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system may seem opposite to each other, but in reality they are complementary rather than being antagonistic. So, next we go to the endocrine system. All of us observe the changes and development taking place in human from the age of the infancy to adulthood and old age. You may ever notice more pronounced the changes in height and weight in the initial years, and also very significant developments of secondary sexual characters during adolescence. In fact, our body undergoes changes as long as we live. So, endocrine system, these changes are regulated by special glands in our body known as endocrine system. Main function of these glands is to produce chemical secretion which is known as hormone, and hormones play an important role in control, coordination and regulation of the functioning of tissues, organs and systems in the body. Well, harmonized mechanisms regulate the release of very precise quantity of hormones to achieve optimal functioning of the human body. Endocrine system is responsible for the chemical coordination in our body, and this word hormone has been derived from the Greek word hormone, that means set in motion or to spur on. A hormone is a chemical secreted by an endocrine gland and carried out by blood to the target organ situated elsewhere in the body to stimulate a specific activity. Did you know that hyperactivity and hypoactivity of these glands can cause diseases? Let us talk about important endocrine glands, the hormones that secrete and the effect they may have in our body. So, there are several glands: pituitary gland, thyroid gland, pancreas, adrenal glands and gonads. Contains ovaries and testicles. Pituitary gland is a small gland located at the brain of the base of the brain. These glands play an important role in the growth of the child from puberty to the full reproductive maturity. This gland secretes gonad stimulating hormone which regulates the activity of the gonads, ovary in females and testes in the males. There is an increase in the activity of this gland at the time of the puberty, which stimulates the ovary and testes to produce the sex hormone progesterone and estrogen in females and testosterone in males. So, during puberty, heightened activities of this gland triggers the ovaries in females and the testes in males to produce sex hormone, progesterone and estrogen in females, testosterone in males. These hormones initiate the development of secondary sexual characters. So, we will discuss when we talk about the secondary sexual characters in next session, that is reproduction. The disorder caused by the increased or decreased activity of the pituitary gland include Cushing disease, dwarfism and cagnetism. Cushing disease is caused by the hyperactivity of the pituitary gland. In males, this disease may lead to excessive growth of hair. In some cases, it may even cause atrophy of testes leading to impotency. In females, this disease causes sterility and masculinization, for example, growth of beard and mustaches. Deficiency of growth hormone or somatotropic hormone secreted by pituitary gland causes dwarfism, which adversely affects the height of a person. Conversely, when this gland becomes overactive or secretes hormone excessively, it can lead to gigantism, a condition characterized by abnormal elongation of long bones resulting in unusually tall stature. Thyroid gland is responsible for the speed of metabolism of our body, and thyroid gland is therefore essential for life, growth and development. Hypothyroidism occurs when the thyroid gland becomes overactive, producing an excess of thyroid hormone beyond the body's need. In contrast, hypothyroidism arises when the gland is underactive, leading to insufficient hormone production required for normal psychological function. Cretinism is a condition of severely stunted physical and mental growth due to untreated congenital deficiency of thyroid hormone or from prolonged nutritional deficiency of iodine. Goiter is a disease of the thyroid gland characterized by an enlargement of the gland, visibly extremely as a swelling on the front of the neck. Simple goiter is caused by the deficiency of iodine in our diet. So, this is all about coordination and control. We have discussed nervous system, endocrine system in details. We will come again to meet you a new program of environmental science and technology. We will come again. Till then, goodbye and thank you. Okay.